Hello everyone. Now you will hear a brief retelling of the movie Morbius. Enjoy the movie. A group of scientists under the direction of Dr. Morbius are dropped off by helicopter at a cave's entrance in the Costa Rican mountains. Morbius asks his team to put up the trap they've prepared because he needs canes to walk due to a rare blood ailment. He then advances and holds up his wounded hand to entice every bat in the cave to fall into the trap. While the pilot and the squad flee in terror, Morbius remains still. It all began in Greece 25 years ago. Dr. Nicholas presents little Morbius, who goes by Milo, to a boy in the hospital where he stays. The two children instantly clicked, sharing a desire to be normal despite having the same uncommon blood illness. As they converse, Milo's machine unexpectedly breaks down, causing him to faint. Milo wakes up instantly when Morbius fixes the contraption swiftly with a spring from his pen. After expressing his admiration for Morbius's intelligence, Nicholas offers to send him to a prestigious school in New York, but Morbius will only agree if Nicholas guarantees to look after Milo. In a letter to Milo that he writes before departing, Morbius promises to discover a treatment for their illness. When Milo tries to retrieve the letter that fell out of his hands by accident, he finds it being read by some mean kids from the local school, who tease him about it. Fortunately, Nicholas shows up and chases the group away before they can do any real damage. He also has to stop Milo from trying to exact retribution. The group starts beating Milo up for fun. When he turns 19, Morbius succeeds in earning his PhD and goes on to create artificial blood that saves millions of lives. He declines the Swedish king's offer to accept the Nobel Prize on the grounds that he accidentally discovered artificial blood while seeking a treatment for his condition. Returning to the present, Morbius finds himself at work at the hospital where his colleague Dr. Martine has asked him to have a private conversation. She inquires about Morbius' bizarre project, which is being funded by Milo, to blend bat DNA with human DNA as she is testing him. Morbius acts as though he has no idea what she's talking about, but when Martine shows him that he has a tank full of Colombian bats, he admits the truth. Since these bats are the only creatures on Earth that only consume blood, Morbius believes that their unique saliva could be the key to curing his illness. Martine questions the ethics of the experiment and is dubious about the concept, but Morbius proceeds to test his experimental serum on a lab rat. Sadly, the poor rat passed away. When one of Morbius' patients begins experiencing seizures at that same moment, medical staff must race to her room and put her into a coma in order to prevent a stroke. Martine is taken aback to observe the rat moving when she returns to the lab, indicating that the serum is effective. After a while, Morbius meets with Milo to inform him of his achievement and request additional funding. He must conduct this experiment in foreign waters because it is illegal, and Milo will cheerfully cover all costs if doing so will result in the discovery of a cure. A few days later, Martine travels to international seas with Morbius. Martine injects a novel and enhanced serum that Morbius has created into his spine. His body begins to shake, so she also fastens his seatbelt. When a crew member arrives at the lab to see how they are doing, Martine argues with him and Morbius escapes. When Martine and the guard finally make it into the isolation chamber, they are horrified to see Morbius, a monstrous-faced crawler, on the ceiling. The guard tries to shoot him, but Martine begs Morbius to stop, but he moves very quickly and climbs on him to feed. Morbius' sensitive hearing hurts so much when the ship's alarm goes off that he panics and causes damage to the isolation chamber. Martine tries to stop the other members of the security team from arriving, but they shove her aside and knock her unconscious. It is at that very moment that Morbius succeeds in smashing through the glass and leaps from the room, showcasing his newfound ability to withstand gunshots and move swiftly in order to kill the guards without showing mercy. A few survivors flee and lock the door, but Morbius, who has grown much stronger, quickly tears it down. Subsequently, Morbius scuttles across the roof once more, patiently apprehending each guard individually and eliminating them all. After the crew has all perished and Morbius has had enough to eat, his body reverts to human form, so he quickly looks in the mirror. It's evident that he has finally recovered. After that, Morbius examines the security footage to make sure Martine is okay. He calls for help, takes the serums, and leaps into the sea after becoming so shaken up by what he's done that he throws up. When two FBI investigators visit the ship the following morning to look into the crime scene, they discover that Martine is still unconscious and that Morbius has erased all the surveillance footage. Nicholas and Milo see the case shortly after it makes the news. When Morbius returns to the hospital later, he first visits his patients and then heads to his lab to drop off the serums. Soon after, his body begins to fail once more, so he quickly goes to the refrigerator to drink the artificial blood he has made so he may survive without harming anyone. He then begins to test his skills, demonstrating his speed, agility, ability to climb anything, and his wide range of jumps. The bats hover politely about him as he enters the tank with them, and Morbius connects with them on a human level. Additionally, he finds that he has bat-like echolocation. To test this, he throws a ball around the room and uses his closed eyes to grab it. Unfortunately, he can only use these abilities while he is eating. For 6 hours, the artificial blood keeps him steady, but he is aware that real blood will soon be required because time is running out. He sequesters himself in a solitary chamber to examine this more thoroughly. When Milo pays him a visit a few hours later, he is in a very feeble state. When Morbius writes his own blood request on the glass, Milo takes him some bags out of the freezer. Milo is astounded by this remedy as soon as Morbius eats again and becomes robust once more. But when Milo requests an injection as well, Morbius informs him that he has erred and that this remedy is a curse. When Milo doesn't stop insisting, Morbius becomes irate and throws him out. When Martine does eventually wake up, FBI officers visit her and show her unsettling images of the bodies on board. Martine, though, seems as though she can't recall what transpired that evening. A nurse finds the lights acting strangely later in the evening while working late. She starts to flee in terror, but a vampire-like thing still finds her and devours her. Like his colleagues, Morbius is shocked to discover the death in the morning and believes he might have been the culprit. Morbius, doubting his own sanity, dashes to the lab, grabs a couple of fake blood bags, and heads out. The FBI officers approach him as he is leaving, questioning him about the tests before deciding to take him into custody. With only a few quick moves, Morbius defends himself and takes them out. He then climbs the stairs to flee while dodging a police officer's gunfire. When he reaches the hospital top, he is surprised to sense that the air from the air conditioning unit is stronger than usual. However, the agents arrest him before he can investigate more. Morbius, who is permitted to keep his notes while in the Manhattan Correctional Facility, does the arithmetic and finds that his meal schedule has changed from every 6 hours to every 4 hours and 22 minutes. He is shackled to the table in the interrogation room, and the agents enter with holy water just in case. They hold him accountable for both the nurses and the ship's deaths, but Morbius is beginning to lose his composure and cries out for his fake blood bags. He gets returned to his cell by the agents when they don't treat him seriously. Later on, Milo pays Morbius a visit. Before departing, he gives him a pack of artificial blood and pledges his support. But Morbius finds out that Milo has lost his cane and that, in reality, it was he who killed the nurse by stealing the serum and injecting himself with it. When Milo finds his way out, he quits acting like he has a disability and leaves with flawless reflexes. In a fit of rage, Morbius swallows the blood and changes into a vampire in order to break out of the jail via the window. Then, using his echolocation to hear Milo attack the proprietor of a newspaper stand, he leaps all over the city. Calling Milo a monster, Morbius rushes to confront him on the street right away. To get Morbius to stop bothering him, Milo strikes him since he believes this power is fantastic and they can now do anything they want. The vampires engage in a vicious battle that ends with them smashing into the subway station, sending onlookers fleeing in fear. Milo is happy that they've changed after a few more hits, but Morbius says he'll figure out a way to make this right. The police arrive at that precise moment to take them both into custody, but Milo acts quickly, killing everyone in a matter of seconds before doing a brief victory dance. As the train draws nearer, Milo then launches another attack on Morbius. Morbius senses the train's rapid airflow and leaps in front of it to escape by flying through the tunnels. The following day, Martine goes inside a shop and uses the back door to leave because she thinks someone is following her around the city. An agent is trailing her and has now lost her amidst the throng. When Martin gets off the bus, she reads in the papers that Morbius is wanted, but then he appears behind her. They get off the bus to stop at a cafe, and she believes him when he tells them that Milo is the real killer because he took the serum. As they converse, Morbius hears two of the criminals talking about a lab. He gets some information from Martine first, then he follows them. Upon consuming the synthetic blood that Martine procured for him, Morbius discovers the gang members within a laboratory where they falsify currency. A thug tries to attack him with a knife when he politely requests to use their lab, but Morbius, going by the name Venom, smashes his hand and scares them all away. Milo is getting ready for a night out, while Morbius uses the parts of the printing machines to create the tools he needs to work on a vampiric cure. He goes to a nightclub and flirts with a gorgeous woman after dancing about the apartment while getting dressed. However, a guy pulls him away after claiming to have seen her first. Keeping his powers in check, Milo exits. But he waits outside, and when the man and his buddies emerge, he murders them all. Shortly after, Milo is at Morbius' hospital lab inquiring for his pal while Martine goes to get a few things. Martine orders Morbius to go without a fuss, claiming she has no idea where he is. Martine and her pet are not present when the FBI officers break into her home in the meanwhile. Then it becomes clear that Martine, along with her cat, is hiding with Morbius at the new lab. She slashes her finger while attempting to feed it, and Morbius has to concentrate harder not to react to the smell of her blood. They then spend some time together on the roof and kiss, not realizing that Milo is observing them from a distance. When the FBI investigators analyze the surveillance footage after discovering the bodies outside the pub the following morning, they determine that Milo is the real murderer. After reading the news update, Nicholas visits Milo and begs him to stop murdering people. After pointing out that Morbius has always been the favorite, Milo, fed up with the doctor's sympathy, strikes Nicholas, severely wounding him. In the meantime, Morbius creates an antibody that only affects vampire bodies. When the time comes, he makes 2 bottles, one for Martin to use on himself and one for Milo. He quickly heads to Milo's flat after receiving a call from Nicholas at that very moment requesting for assistance. Regretfully, before passing away, Nicholas only succeeds in pleading with Morbius to stop Milo. Simultaneously, Milo kidnaps Martine and uses his power to make her utter Morbius' name. Once Morbius uses his echolocation to locate them, he uses his flight through the city to discover Martine bleeding from a wound caused by Milo on a roof. She wants to feed on Morbius so she can pass away useful, but he kisses her and drops a drop of his own blood into her mouth. Martine passes away at that very time, and Morbius succumbs to his rage and consumes her. Then Morbius leaps on top of Milo, who has also appeared on the roof, and they both go off the edge. The vampires keep attacking each other as they descend, breaking through a few buildings before starting to descend once more. After giving Morbius a particularly strong blow that sends him landing on a platform, Milo snatches his leg and tosses him against the glowing sign. Milo leaps on Morbius as he stumbles again, drags him up against the building, and they end up going through the pavement and onto a tunnel instead of the street. Morbius uses his voice to transmit a strong echolocation wave through the tunnel and then his hand to send one through the water while Milo giggles uncontrollably. When Milo tries to murder Morbius with a metal rod, Morbius sends an army of bats after him in an attempt to rescue him. When Morbius enters and gives Milo the antibodies while the small creatures are holding him down, Milo becomes human and apologizes before passing away. In order to securely exit the tunnel, Morbius hides among the bats until the FBI agents and the police come. Martine, in the meantime, awakens on the roof and confesses that she is also a vampire. A while later, Spider-Man's adversary Vulture is dropped in the nearby jail by an enigmatic spell. He was released by the cops right away because no one knows who he is here because he arrived from another universe. Before long, Vulture completes his villainous outfit and asks Morbius to join forces.